Hello everyone, and welcome to the Federation Conversation. That's a temporary name, we're going to think of a better one, but for now that's what it is. My name's David, my co-host is Scotty. Scotty, how you doing?
I'm fine, David, thank you very much.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah, short intro.
We were planning on doing this podcast for quite a while, because we wanted to go through... Yeah, we wanted to go through all of the Star Trek. And we kind of just held off for a little bit, and now Discovery's out, so we're going to do it episode by episode, just to start us off, and then
it's kind of crept up on us all of a sudden. There's new shows here. It's like, well, now we kind of have to do it. So
yeah, I mean, if there's any time to start, it's today.
It's with
So yeah, we're going to go through episode by episode, and yeah.
David says the title is temporary. For a long time, we were calling it the Live Long and Podcast. It was going to be.
Yes, to the point where I made a Gmail and everything. It was going to be. No,
I thought it was a fine name.
It's not a good name.
Yeah. So yeah, at the moment we're going with this one. So
yes, temporarily, the Federation Conversation.
Until we can come up with a better title.
It's a good name, but there must be better ones out there.
So, David, I mean, what do you want to get off your chest with this podcast? I mean, what can people expect to hear?
Well, I want to discuss what I think is going on in the world of Trek. No.
I don't know. I mean, it's kind of just an outlet for us, because we're always talking either about Star Trek or Star Wars.
Yeah, we're always conversing about the Federation.
We're going to try and limit ourselves to Star Trek with this one, and not talk about the Star Wars prequels so much as we usually do. But yeah, I guess just as a way of reviewing every episode or going over it, just.
And it's been a while since I've watched it all. I just want to watch it all again, to be honest.
It's a good excuse for us to just watch the whole show again.
And I've never watched all of TOS, and I've never watched the animated series.
It's absurd.
And
I've
never finished Enterprise either.
Mr. Trexpertise here, and he thinks he knows, and he hasn't even seen Star Trek, really.
Scotty's not finished Deep Space Nine, or Voyager, or Enterprise.
Yeah.
You've got your own little holes in knowledge, so...
To be honest, I actually have a lot more work to do than David, yeah.
Yeah, because there's a lot more of it.
But anyway, it's September of 2017, and we've been shoved into action because Discovery came out today? Was it yesterday? Today.
It was today, yeah. Both episodes came out today, and we're going to talk about them. Starting with episode 1, season 1, The Vulcan Hollow. I just want to speak generally, first of all.
Absolutely, yeah, that's what you do.
A lot of people were being very down about it. They were saying, this I'm not going to watch it, first of all, because it's on CBS. We don't have that problem because it's on Netflix for us. Or... other means. Look, I only pirated it because it was taking 2 hours to get on Netflix. 2 hours longer than I wanted to wait. So that's...
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was going to be like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and it came out like 3 hours before that. So no, I want to watch it now.
Screw them.
I'm still paying for Netflix. It's basically the same thing.
It's still a paying customer. It still counts.
And I didn't get subtitles, so I couldn't understand half what they were saying.
There's no subtitles in the Netflix version?
No, there are in the Netflix version. They've actually got Klingon subtitles, apparently, for the entire episode.
Oh god, that's handy. What, so spelt Klingon phonetically or Klingon font?
Phonetically.
Oh, okay.
I don't think they're going to upgrade their entire system to
well,
give you Klingon characters.
Can't they use Mandarin or something? I don't know. It's close enough.
It's not that close.
Okay, anyway.
And then there were a lot of people just naysaying it because it's not their Trek.
It's very difficult to... I mean... People saying, I'm not going to watch it. There's such a broad range of why they're not watching it, and...
There are heaps of reasons. I mean, some of them are because it's too diverse. They're shoving it down my throat, which is...
They have seen Star Trek
political.
Before, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's always been like that, but...
Yeah. Anyway.
Maybe... One theory I had is because Facebook kind of just shoves all those interviews down your throat if you're looking at your Facebook feed a lot. You don't usually see all those interviews if you're... it's 1987 and TNG is about to go on the air. You don't really see all that stuff.
You'd think not, but then when I was a kid, when there was a Star Trek related piece of news, like on E, what do they used to call it? E News or whatever, Entertainment Tonight. they'd have John Tesh, the guy with the big chin,
Yep.
and there'd be like a spot on Star Trek: The Undiscovered Country, and I'd be like, "Oh, look, there's new Star Trek coming!" I'll be watching it, and
Yeah, but they wouldn't
Mr. Chin.
tell you how diverse it was. No, anyway. Yeah, some people didn't like it for that. I was just gonna wait until I saw the show, and then I would hate it.
I've tried to just go in dry with the show, not watch any. I did watch one sort of behind the scenes thing the other day, and kind of regretted it immediately. So
No, I didn't
mostly
watch
tried to be a.
Yeah.
I've tried to be a blank slate.
I didn't watch anything. I just watched like one of the trailers, I think.
Yeah.
General impressions are that.
So he's going to do Michael Burnham first. Go.
Oh, on the general impressions of the main character.
Yep. Off you go. No. Sorry.
No. General impressions of the episode are, well, of the show itself. It's not very Trekky yet, but I understand why it's not very Trekky yet. Because it's basic. These two episodes are basically being a prequel to the actual show.
Are you suggesting that it needs a Trekiotomy?
No. How long have you been holding that joke?
No, I just thought of it now. Keep going. Sorry, ignore me.
No, okay.
You can actually mute me in this thing.
No, so apparently the third episode is, and you can see it from the preview for the third episode. It's basically the second pilot of the series.
Yeah.
Because this is like a prologue. It's like, why is Michael Burnham going to prison? Or a prison ship or whatever she's doing. Yeah.
Not a flashback, but it's kind of like a primer for the show.
Yeah, basically, because I don't think they could explain it through dialogue, but they're not going to. So they've just shown you the two episodes, and interesting enough. Not really. Yeah. The antagonists of the series, the Klingons, are probably the bit that I don't like. Well, I like the least.
Yeah.
It sounds like they've got marshmallows in their mouths, and they're speaking really slow.
It seems to be a common trope among aliens. I mean, I've talked about this. I don't want to get into it now. We'll wait till later. But it seems to be, at the moment, aliens, space people of various descriptions in space movies. Like they've got fat throats or something. I don't understand where it comes from. But
I mean,
at the moment, that's just where we are.
I think in this situation, it's the prosthetics and.
But it's all dubbed, though, isn't it?
Oh, probably. No, I don't think it is.
I mean, oh, no, sorry, I can't talk about Star Wars. I was just going to say Yoda.
No, you can talk about Star Wars. Go ahead. I don't give a shit.
Yoda's mouth only ever did this, but he had like a wide range of articulation. It's like
he had like 70 points of articulation. No, what I read was it's actually all Klingon. Like it's all proper Klingon. So that might have slowed. It might have. Yeah, I mean that's what I thought, but it might have slowed them down a lot. The actors, because they have to actually, they're trying really hard to pronounce it all correctly, and they just sound like second language speakers basically.
They felt the weight of millions of eyes on them, and they were thinking, "Fuck, if I get this Klingon wrong, I'm out." So they were like,
no, it's just too slow, and like another thing they did with the Klingons, like I know we've only seen one ship, and it's like an ancient ship, so they're all serious, super serious and stuff. But like, I just can't imagine these guys, going to Quarks and like having a fun time. It feels like they've taken away culture from the Klingons. Like everyone was saying, "Oh, look, finally they've given, they've added depth to these characters, to these to this race of warriors." But it's like I feel like they have less now, just based on what I've seen.
I don't know. I'm not too concerned with them. I mean, it's only 2 episodes in. I'm not too concerned with them trying to make things different. But at the same time, if they make choices I don't like, I guess this is a good.
My issue isn't that it's different, because like, I realize that they changed everything for TNG and stuff. It's obviously a lot different than what it was in TOS and stuff like that. Like, I'm not. And if they were going to come out and explain why all the Klingons look different again, because they did it in Enterprise as well, the augment virus and stuff like that, I would prefer if they didn't, because I really don't give a shit.
I'm going to sound really ignorant now, but I'm going to say it anyway. With like series of comic books and stuff, when they do like new stories and shit, and things are different from how they used to be, they don't really waste time explaining it, do they? It's just a different story, and they just do what they like.
Are you just talking about like superhero comics and stuff?
That sort of thing.
Yeah, they just do whatever the fuck they want.
Sometimes you see like a wacky Wolverine, he looks completely different, and somebody who was dead before is alive again, and all that stuff. Like, so I don't know.
Millions of parallel universes and millions of different places where rules are different, you know,
and like, crossovers.
And crossovers, you know. Oh, look, it's zombie X-Men. This is fine. I mean, everyone's dead.
You kind of
yeah.
It's a little like opening Pandora's box, but to be honest, I don't really care if Star Trek does the same thing now, because who cares really? Just let them try and make a new universe and see how it holds up, I reckon.
Yeah, I'm not too fussed about them changing the way things look in like a already established era.
But as I said, if they make shit decisions, then I can't wait to rip into them.
Yeah, see, of all these things that I mentioned, people can be mad about. The one thing that I am a little bit perturbed about is that the fact that they have gone backwards again, because it just they're writing themselves into a hole where they're going to deliberately just reference stuff from TOS and things like that, and then that's going to get them into a situation where they're going to fuck up or just write badly. You know, things like, I don't know why Sarek has to be. But why does the main character have to have a relationship with Sarek? I don't really get the reason, besides the fact that they want to mention like they've got like a list of things they have to mention to be in the TOS era.
It's
Sarek has to be
it's honestly worse than I thought it was going to be, because I thought he was just going to be part of a backstory and he would appear sometimes. I didn't expect. Are we into the spoiler section yet?
Yes, this is entirely spoiler.
Okay, this is an entirely spoilery podcast. Yes. I didn't expect, not once but twice in the run of those 2 episodes, for him to appear like Obi-Wan and be like her fucking voice from the, like, you giving her advice and stuff, and him I mean,
yeah, the one time with the Deep Space Nine hologram communicator, and then the next time with her brain, which I thought was kind of stupid. I mean, again, it's one of those things where the Vulcan like mysticism was always kind of stupid anyway. Like, I mean, it had its own rules, and they would always just make new rules whenever they felt like it.
It was never as stupid as this, though, because there's actually very little delineation between their magical hologram, where he can walk around the room and sit next to her, which, okay, it's cool, it's future tech, I get it. But then he does the same thing in her dreams, and it's like, well, it's like having 2 flashbacks or 2 dreams within a very short space of time. It's kind of, are we going to keep doing this?
In terms of writing, I don't like the fact that they are relying on Sarek coming to her and talking to her like that. In 2 different ways, and it's just kind of like, just get the fuck out of the show, you know.
You're not even a very good Sarek. You know, within seconds of looking at him, I'm like, who is this actor? Is it? It's skinny Patton Oswalt. It's a dead ringer.
I don't see skinny Patton Oswalt, but I'll put up a look. There's a comparison, and I'll let the audience decide.
Anyway, I mean, yeah, we're sort of dancing around all of the possible topics here and being very general. I mean, I don't know. Do you just want to talk about the first episode first, or are we just?
Yeah, sure. Let's talk about the first episode.
Okay.
Look immediately.
There's no structure to this thing. Yeah.
No, there isn't. There definitely isn't. This is very free form. We're just just letting our ideas flow. You know, it's
we used
it's
to do like
space.
an Us podcast where we just talked about news and stuff, and we haven't done one in a while, so it's give us a chance.
But now we just get to talk about the thing we want to talk about.
which is Star Trek.
Exactly. No.
Anyway. So
the first episode, I'm gonna look. I did take notes during the episode. They're not too in depth.
See, I didn't. I just wrote to you over Skype.
Yeah, you were just typing to me over Skype, but you can look through that if you really want to.
I'll have them here, but dollars to donuts, I probably won't say much of it because I want to keep this semi-clean. I swore.
I mean that's just your unfiltered
Not
vitriol.
Scotty. Am I allowed to swear?
I said fuck before.
It's not vitriol.
Well, I can't think of a different word.
I have a very developed sense of humor, and not a lot of people understand that. So it's anyway, you go. Start. Here's your notes.
Anyway, okay. The first scene with them in the desert, I didn't like. One thing I didn't like about that scene was the fact that they were both explaining to each other a thing that they both should have known very easily, and they obviously should have known this information. There was some radioactive thing going on near this planet, and these little bugs that have been living on the planet for 1,000 years are going to die if they don't give them water. But they're sitting there explaining it to each other. And it's like, you should both know this before you go down on the planet. They're obviously just saying it for the audience's sake, and I hate that. I hate when people do that. Another thing that annoyed me about that scene, which isn't, it's not really important, but to draw the Star Trek emblem into the sand, she'd have to make like at least 3 really sharp turns. I don't know why Sonequa wouldn't have said, "Hey, where are we going? We're going in circles. What are you doing?"
Yeah, a woman.
But she just walks around, and it's like, "Hey, we walked in a circle." It's like, didn't you realize you were making this big thing in the sand?
She's got this internal chronometer. She can guess times very accurately. She can tell what the temperature is. She's been with Vulcans all her life. She's very scientific, and she couldn't work out the.
She didn't realize that they were taking sharp turns in like 3 different places on the sand.
Not the brightest cookies.
Anyway, that's just me nitpicking, just because sometimes things jump out at you in the show, and it's like, that doesn't.
Look, you're not the only
sense.
You're not the only person who had a problem with the expository nature of that scene. Actually, the actress Michelle Yeoh herself had a big problem with it. She raised it with the director, and he wasn't really listening to her concerns. So what she was doing for a lot of those takes was actually looking dead at the camera while delivering the lines, and the director's like, "Michelle, what are you doing over there? What's going on?" And she was like,
yep.
And they had to CG her to make her not look at the camera.
How'd they do that? Did they put goggles on her head?
They did, yeah. The goggles.
Yeah, she's wearing goggles,
computer animated. It's all very advanced graphics.
Well, she is a trained actress, and she probably thought that was really dumb. But the thing is, I don't want to compare this to the Orville, especially because you haven't watched.
I've
all of the
deliberately
Orville
not
yet.
been watching the Orville because it's not Star Trek, and to be honest, I don't think it comes close to even the worst Star Trek. But that's me.
Okay.
But but at the same time, we are going to have to talk about it because it is related. And it did
well, I
come
mean,
out
people
like
are comparing them. They came out at the same time, basically, and people are comparing them. People are saying that the Orville is more like Trek than this is. It's a whole big thing. But my point is, there's a scene in the first episode where he's lined up all the main characters in a shuttle bay, and he goes up to each one and he says, "Oh, you're this race, aren't you all males? Oh, you're a robot, aren't you all racist?" And it's very poorly written exposition, and somehow this was worse in Discovery. This scene was worse than that scene in the Orville.
I already knew how much that scene sucked, but the way you just described it then really...
He goes down the line, he says, "Hey, you're one of those really strong woman aliens. You're very young and you're very strong. Alright. Hey, you played Cassidy in Deep Space Nine. You're gonna be my mentor, kind of, when I'm dumb, Oh
my God.
But somehow I didn't hate that as much as the exposition in this episode of Discovery. Where they're explaining to each other the mission that they're already on.
My opinion is that maybe the Orville scene was worse, but I can't judge it very well because you see I know what they were aiming for with the Discovery thing. One hand it's exposition, and the other hand they're trying to show bonhomie between the 2 characters.
Yes,
and I'm just not a bonhomie guy at this stage of my life. I'm probably a little too grumpy for my own good.
When you hear when you hear one of the characters. Sarcastically say, "Ye of little faith, ha ha ha, you didn't believe me, there was going to be a well here, ha ha." You don't believe that they've been together for 7 years on the starship?
No. It doesn't get through my rock-hard ribcage.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. It's very obvious at this point.
Again, that's a very personal perspective. I understand that other people watch shows and they're like, "Ha ha, you hear what that character said? Yeah." Alright, zing. So,
it's very Joss Whedon Avengers kind of dialogue.
Ooh.
Yeah, where they're wittily throwing quips at each other while they're fighting and stuff like that.
I don't like constant rejoinders. You want to know why I like Mad Men so much? You listen to Roger Sterling, and it just sounds natural.
Yeah.
It sounds easy. So, anyway. Not to talk about another TV show.
No, I mean, we're going to talk about every TV show under the sun at some point. Yeah. The opening sequence. Let's talk about the opening sequence.
They're in the desert.
No,
hang on. You mean
sorry, I mean the opening credits. Sorry, I wrote opening sequence on my notes.
Okay.
The song is a little bland. What do you think of the song? What do you think of the song?
What I said to you when I first heard the theme song, and what I actually did in a video edit on our Facebook page, was to compare it to car commercial music and actually pair it up with car commercial footage and say, haha, wasn't there? So, but actually, in context with all of the Star Trek visuals they've done, it strikes me as maybe a little more Westworldy, just, emotion-wise, like they're trying to sort of,
That is definitely, yeah.
Now I kind of get what they're aiming for, and I've heard the song a few more times, and it's kind of sinking in. I'm still going to say it's a pretty weak theme. It's not like Deep Space Nine. It's not fun to sing. Voyager.
Yeah, I don't know if Deep Space Nine is the most fun to sing either.
It is.
It's a little... yeah.
We'll wait for the Deep Space Nine episodes to do that.
I think it's just a modern TV show thing.
I think it's just a placeholder.
No. Because the opening sequence is, if you watch any Netflix show that isn't Orange Is the New Black, they're all like this. All the Marvel shows on Netflix, the Daredevil show called Daredevil, House of Cards, they all have openings like this, where it's just
honestly,
and it's just stuff. It's not people. It's just stuff.
I don't have a problem with it.
Westworld,
I honestly don't have an issue with it though, because I realise I'm a fuddy-duddy, I'm old-fashioned, and I'm sentimental, and I'm stuck in the past. So for it to be different to old Star Trek, I actually don't care. As long as it's not Faith of the Heart, it's really a non-issue.
Yeah, I mean,
it's nice orchestral music,
No. I don't like Faith of the Heart either. I just think it could have been a little more interesting, as an opening. Because it just feels like they're just, we got to do it like all the popular shows. Let's do a Game of Thrones, Westworld, Netflix.
Yeah.
Just let's watch the CG stuff do things over our orchestral theme. Yeah, I don't know.
But Star Trek's never been immune to trends with music, because like old Star Trek was, had all this bespoke music made for it. It was all very memorable themes and stuff. And then in the late 80s, they had one of the showrunners or one of the producers was like, this music's too much like that. We need it to be more like this. And that's where all this music came from, where it sounds like somebody's sitting on a keyboard, and just droning. And, it wasn't always, bad music, but a lot of the stuff in TNG was very, it's just a bed of sound.
Yeah. Well, I don't, yeah, there's a lot of music within the Star Trek shows that is just kind of so-so, it's like, it's just whatever, you can't like it or hate it because it's just there.
Yeah. And now, look, in recent years, it's gotten more sort of orchestrally kind of, it's coming back a little bit.
Yeah, they love the horns.
So what I was just going to say is actually recent years doesn't matter because there hasn't been Star Trek on the television for like, how many years now? 13? 12?
2004?
Well, time does fly, doesn't it?
2001, 2002, 2003, 2004. Yes.
Wow. That's amazing.
And Voyager stopped in 2001 or 2.
Thereabouts.
No,
was there overlap?
No, it wasn't overlap. Sorry, I think. Oh. Now I'm confused. Jesus.
Anyway, back to Discovery.
I know that Nemesis came out during Enterprise, but whatever.
Okay.
Anyway, the show.
Yeah.
Generally, once they got onto the ship, the thing that jumped out to me the most was the what's called Dutch angles. Oh,
you mean the cinematography of the?
Yes. They haven't set up the tripod correctly. They've forgotten to extend all the legs in the tripod, and one slid down, and they didn't notice. And now every shot is at a 30-degree angle or whatever. I really hate that.
That was all a little too J.J. Abrams for me.
It just felt like they were trying a little too hard just to make everything action. It's
I don't know. Just.
It's annoying because even when there's no action. It's just them talking about a thing that they found in asteroid field or whatever. All the camera angles are tilted. It was like, would the set look bad if it wasn't tilted? Or...
I think whoever's doing it is still new to the art of unusual angles and glides and stuff. Because a couple of times it worked okay, and then a couple of times they were coming to opposing tilts that didn't quite work between shots, and it was sort of weird.
Yeah, there's a particular moment where Sonequa Martin...
Does this count as nitpicking, or...?
No. This is the way they edited the show. The whole show's like this. So if we have a problem with it, I mean, it's not nitpicking. It's it's just having an issue with the show. Sonequa Martin's walking into the captain's room, and she's talking to an admiral, and they exchange a glance, and like she nods, and then she opens the door, and it's like very quick, like second long shots, and they're at opposing tilts, so the camera goes to show them communicating with each other, and things like that just kind of rub me the wrong way,
Video editing as an art form is moving along, and we just have to embrace change, David.
Are we just too slow? Are we just...
most recent
adult brains cannot keep up with the action.
The most recent Taken movie had a sequence rather, of Liam Neeson jumping a fence, and it's some ridiculous number of shots.
Was it Liam Neeson or somebody else? I know what you're talking about.
No, it was Liam Neeson. It's when he's escaping from the scene of the crime, and there's at least 10 shots, maybe. I don't know. I can't remember.
It's more like 20 within 4 seconds
of him jumping a fence. And it's an insane. I watched it. I was watching it with Dad because he's a big fan of the Taken franchise, and he'll just watch Taken over and over.
It says Brian Mills jumps a fence.
That's Liam Neeson's character.
I didn't know that. It's 14 camera cuts in 6 seconds.
Not to savage the editing or anything like that, but I can't tell if maybe some of this off-camera work is like an influence from the J.J. Abrams thing, because I don't really remember those movies well enough to know if they were doing it in there or not.
They were definitely doing it. Like, you sent me a screenshot explaining the thing before, and it was from Star Trek.
Oh, really? Was it?
Yeah, it was Zachary Quinto standing there.
Oh, okay. I can't...
Yeah, no, they definitely did that, and like the sweeping across the bridge as stuff's happening, things like that.
Look, as I said, a couple of times it kind of worked. I mean, it sort of looked spacey, and the rotation was like anyway.
Yeah, sometimes like right at the start, it's like they're finding this new mysterious object, and they're doing all the scans and stuff, and it was kind of alright. But then it just kept doing it, and for the whole show, it was doing it, and that's where it got to me. And lens flares. Did you notice the lens flares? There were a few lens flares in this that seemed out of place.
No, actually, to be honest, I didn't notice.
You didn't notice lens flares?
I wasn't on the lookout for them.
You weren't looking for them.
I was really just trying to watch the show and enjoy it.
Hey, it's not like I was trying to not watch the show. It's not like I'm nitpicking. I'm just...
No. I wasn't really on the lookout for any one kind of thing, except for, and this is, again, really getting into very nerdy, particular sort of complaints, but I get the feeling they're doing a lot of what's called chromatic aberration to the whole look of the show, really. That thing where you have kind of like a rainbow effect on everything, like there's a little bit of red on that side and blue on that side?
Yes.
You know what it is. That seems to be on everything these days, and I think they're really cramming it into some of the shots in this show. Maybe I'm just imagining things. Maybe it's a low quality download.
I think that might be the LGBT influence. No. Rainbows on everything. Oh, get out of my Star Trek.
Look, now you're making me sound like
yeah, that's what I was trying to do. And the plot in general. Let's just talk generally about the plot.
Well, where does the plot start? They're cruising in some nebula, and then they find an anomaly.
They're looking at the two stars, like they're about to have sex or whatever, and they find a little probe in the debris field, and they can't get close to it because, they can't. Actually, so that's the thing. I don't know why they can't get close to it, but they can't scan it. So they look at it with the telescope, which is, I thought that was cute, because they have an old-timey telescope there. Yeah.
I've thought of that before as being a cool concept. I think even on the International Space Station, somebody's got some sort of telescope set up there. Maybe I'm just misremembering something that I heard.
I thought that scene was cute. Anyway, that's the word I've chosen to describe it. And so
David describes Michelle Yeoh as cute.
That's not what I said.
Okay, all right, sorry.
So they're looking at it and they decide. I guess Michael Burnham decides that she's going to go down in a suit and check it out, even though she only has like 20 minutes of radiation shielding.
She spends a full minute on the porch of the ship waiting to leave.
And everyone tells her not to do it, but then she just goes and does it. She makes an impassioned speech. She says, "If we don't go out and explore, why are we at?" Oh, no, it's like the Kirk speech. It's like, I can't even remember it. What does he say?
It's just the risk is.
That's why we're aboard her. It's like that. So she wants to take the risk to go see what's in the probe, even though it's really dangerous, and they could just...
She delivers that impassioned speech, and then Michelle Yeoh says, "You are confined to quarters."
And that's the end of the show.
Yeah. No, look, my only problem, aside from the fact that it's kind of a hokey... wildly impractical scenes that just don't really make any sense, but they happen, like, without any provocation in the show. It's like, oh, he's going to go out onto that catwalk to flip that switch.
Yes.
When in reality it wouldn't. Yeah. Her going out to scan this anomaly is ridiculous. I mean, don't they say later in the show they have worker bees? Why didn't she go out there in a worker bee? Things like that.
Yeah, do they have radiation shielding that's better than her suit? Or... Yeah, I'm not... What I was thinking, why can't they just fly the ship there? Because was it too much debris, or I don't understand.
I don't want to be one of these pieces of shit that attacks the hokiness of scenes. I understand why they're doing it for the drama of sending out an astronaut into space, and
yeah, they want the visuals for the trailers and stuff.
My only problem was a bit of inconsistency, because one second she's going, "Woo, all right," she's enjoying it, and the next you can hear her like heavy breathing, like, "Oh my god, I'm so scared," and it seemed to change a couple of times over the... Maybe I've only watched it once. Maybe I've got this wrong, but it was almost like she was scared, happy, scared. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm imagining things. I didn't like that.
That's the thing with her character, though, because I feel like in those 2 episodes, she isn't very consistent. Like, I don't want to... Because I know they're trying to go for a... She was raised as a Vulcan, but she's been around humans for a while, so she's kind of losing it a bit.
She's a human raised by Vulcans working with humans.
She's torn between 2 worlds, which is, they've never done that before. They've never had that kind of storyline before. Is,
in all the previous shows of Star Trek, I think all those other characters had a better reason to be torn between 2 worlds, and they did it better. I mean, again, it's only the first 2 episodes. I'm not going to judge it too harshly, but in this first 2, it didn't feel too... one second she's doing Spock Vulcan voice, and the next she's excited black girl. I can't say that, can I? You know what I mean? No, like, she's kind of playing 2 or 3 characters at once, which is something I was really... One of the reasons I'm not watching The Orville at the moment is that, as a show, it doesn't know what it wants to be, really. Whether he realizes that or not, it's trying to throw too many darts at too many boards.
I definitely agree with that, in terms of The Orville. Because, like, you only watched the first episode. That's fine.
I did. I cannot...
I will honestly tell you that the next 2 episodes are a lot more Trek and a lot more bearable than the first one. Because in the first one, they're just setting up that ex-wife, bit, and they're doing the jokes, and they're just continuously doing the ex-wife jokes. It's a lot more. It's a lot better in the next 2, but it's still the same show.
I hate The Orville.
You hate The Orville?
We can talk about that in our non-Star Trek section at the end. The pissing into the pool.
You don't want to do that. All right.
Yeah, no. But that's the thing, you say it's more Star Trek. There are so many, even within Star Trek itself, there's so many different ideas of what that really means. Which is why I'm going to do this podcast. Because, I think you and I, we differ on a few things.
That's the thing. Because I feel... I see Star Trek as, ensemble cast, a monster of the week or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And, relatively equal airtime for the secondary characters and stuff like that in each episode, and they're solving problems and with society and shit like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's kind of what they're doing. Like, I mean, the second episode was basically... Which episode was it? It was a disaster. It was a riff on disaster.
Is this the Orville or...
Yeah, sorry, the Orville, yeah. We're talking about the Orville right now.
Yeah.
The second episode was basically disaster from TNG. Because the young officer, she doesn't know what to do in a disaster, and the command and crew are gone. And the next episode was Measure of a Man, basically. And they were okay versions of them. There were still some shitty jokes that I don't like, because I don't like Seth MacFarlane, but, I think it's worth a watch, at least those 2 episodes. And
just so that I don't sound ignorant, and so that I can talk about it, I will eventually watch them, but for now, I don't have the energy.
You just watch these two episodes of Discovery. It's just too much.
Well, I was... It's like a 2-parter, and I was going to watch it in one day so we could talk about it on a new podcast. That's different. Orville is not required viewing for a Star Trek podcast.
No, that's fine.
It's more like diligence, due diligence. I'll do it later.
It's extra homework.
Yeah. But yeah, no, but as I was saying, Star Trek, it has been and always will be many different things. It started as this weird outlet for all this weird utopian stuff that Roddenberry was into. High-minded sort of things of aliens and intelligences playing off each other, mixed in with this really weird, and I don't want to say perverted, but I mean, let's face it, the man was a sex addict, and he had a lot of weird kind of open-minded swinger attitudes, and that was always kind of mixed up in there. Like the first movie, the motion picture, you had all this probe existing on another dimensional level, looking for its creator and finding out the meaning of life and all that weird stuff. Mixed in
and it was
with
a giant vagina as well.
It had a giant sphincter, basically. It looked like kind of Spock's going into this thing. And then you've got, what's her name? The Deltan, Ilea. And without any provocation, she's on the bridge and she looks at Kirk and says, "My oath of celibacy is on record, Captain." And he's like, "Hey, you're the only one talking about sex, honey." It's just...
It was very sex-driven early on.
And then the show... the shows themselves kind of change character because they have different writers working for them. You'd have like a great sort of submarine combat episode, and you have what's that one, Corbomite maneuver, where it's a big giant spaceship turns out to be a little prankster, Ron Howard's brother, cruising around space just messing around with people.
What's his name? Clint Howard.
Clint Howard, yeah.
I'm a big fan of Clint Howard.
And then Star Trek went through all those weird sort of incarnations in the original show, and then in the 80s it got plunged back into weird Roddenberry-ness with that encounter of Farpoint, the space jellyfish. And then in the 90s it became this serialized thing on the space station, and it's too much for me to summarize in a couple of sentences, but what I'm saying is...
21 years of television right there.
Star Trek has been so many things that when you say a show is more like Star Trek, I don't know, it's hard to know what that really means.
I would just say it's more like TNG.
Okay, well,
I could have saved myself that.
You could have saved yourself the lecture there. Well, see, if that's what they're saying, then I'm not sure I'm on board.
Well, you haven't watched the 2 episodes, have you?
I'm not sure I want to watch Seth MacFarlane's sort of love letter to TNG. I just would rather watch TNG. It was better.
Yeah, no, it is. It definitely is better.
Anyway,
what do you think of the... So... Michael Burnham is unreliable, inconsistent, not that likable. I don't know. She seems annoying. Like she's a bit up herself. And
how many episodes are in this season? Whatever.
15.
Obviously, we're going to give it more time.
Yeah, I mean, they're obviously setting it up for the Nick Lucano, Roy Lauren redemption arc or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Not Nick Lucano, Tom Paris.
Well, I kind of feel sorry for her. She's only 3 episodes in and she's already on a prison bus. And...
Yeah, well, that's why they're calling it a second pilot. Because that's where she starts her redemption,
I could almost hear the Regina Spektor when I was watching those preview shots at the end. She's on the bus in her prisoner overalls.
Yeah, and all those like grubby people are around her, like what are they, like, poking her and stuff?
Animals, trap. Animals.
How
do you feel about Michelle Yeoh?
I thought she was fine. Like, I don't know. Like, I do have this issue where I don't like foreign people being hired for shows and not being able to speak English, like, clearly.
I just want us to word this really carefully, because a guy jumped on our Rogue One review when we were talking about Diego Luna. He really put the boot into us because he thought we were racists or something. It was like, it's not. David is just, I don't want to speak for David, but
okay, I'll explain my point of view.
He's just trying to say that it's a little hard to understand.
I'll explain my point of view. Yeah, in the Rogue One thing, Diego Luna, his name's Cassian Andor. Is that his name?
A fine actor. Yeah, Cassian Andor. Yeah.
Cassian Andor. He mumbles the entire time, and he's got this strong accent, which makes it hard to understand. I mean, everyone was mumbling in that film, so it's not specifically him, but having an accent doesn't help because he was all like, the Federation, and it doesn't.
The rebellion.
The rebellion. Yeah, sorry, Federation. It doesn't help, and I mean that's what I was worried about coming into this. Her accent was all right. Yeah, it wasn't too bad.
Well,
did she say she drew a star at the end of this desert scene where they get teleported up? Did she say she drew a star or something? Is that what she said?
I don't want to read everything I said, but one thing I did complain about was that when she's calling the ship, she says, Giorgio Chishenzu. I can't even read that in my own voice, never mind hers. So
yeah, I did notice that one line was like,
hearing her try and navigate that sentence was something else. But as I said to you as I was live writing my response, I don't think it's because English comes to her as a second language or anything to do with her upbringing or whatever. I think it just might be the dentures.
Is she wearing dentures? I don't know.
If she is, I don't want to be like sitting here saying I can't really quite understand the captain 100% of the time because it's a little insensitive. And let's be honest, for people of a certain age, I mean, if Sigourney Weaver was the captain of the...
How old is she? She doesn't even seem that old.
I can barely understand Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah,
have you heard her talk lately?
Yes, I have. I watched the first 3 episodes of The Defenders. And then stopped because it was boring.
Michelle Yeoh, see, that's another thing. Is she actually a woman of a certain age now? She's not that old, is she?
I think she is getting up there in age, but I saw like red carpet shots. Why do you make that face? I saw red carpet shots and she looked great. I don't know, but I don't know how old she is.
It's difficult for me because as a child of the 80s/90s, it's a little bit of a shock to think that she's now 20 years older than I remember. Everyone's old now.
Well, she's 55. That's barely anything nowadays.
Oh, it's all right. See, I mean, to be honest, I find her a lot easier to listen to than Katie Seagal.
Katie Seagal?
I'm only bringing her up because I was watching all that Sons of Anarchy before.
What, you don't like Katie Seagal's voice? Yeah, no, look,
as we usually do in podcasts, we're talking a lot about something that's a non-issue. Look, sometimes she's a little hard to understand.
Yeah, no, but generally, I thought a character was fine, but it doesn't really matter because she's dead now. So.
Well, yeah, that's another thing. I saw predictions, people saying, "Oh crap, is she going to get killed in the finale?"
Shit, she's going to get killed.
Yeah, no shit, she's dead meat.
It is a bit weird that they made such a big deal of her and then just killed her in the second episode. But I mean, it was pretty easy to see. It was pretty easy to see that she was going to die.
There's a lot of telegraphing there, obviously. No, I find her to be found her to be a more consistent character and a fine actor, and it's a shame that she's dead now. I guess maybe there'll be flashbacks.
Rest in peace, Michelle. Yeah, she's got credits for the entire series or season.
I would much rather watch flashbacks of Michelle Yeoh than current spiritual communications with Sarek, which just does not work at all.
I think his office must be set up the exact same way as Sonique was.
Yes.
So he's got the table in the same spot, so he can sit down.
The Admiral was using the holographic communications thing and walk around his bridge. I'm thinking, I hope these bridges are the same floor plan. Otherwise, he's going to walk right into like the orchestra pit on his command bridge.
Yeah, he started talking to his bridge officers, and I was wondering if anyone on the Shenzhou was going to go. He just pointed at me. He's talking to me.
Maybe that's why Star Destroyers all have the same layout.
Well, I mean, it's just easier for the to replace parts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
What did you think of Saru? Is that his name? Saru?
That's the alien. See, I thought he was going to be more deadpan than he was, and that's actually I kind of like the fact that he's not completely deadpan.
Saru.
I don't know why. I don't really have like any real explanation as to why that bothered me.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't show any sort of like comedy or anything in the trailers. There was nothing, and to be fair, the show didn't have much at all. But there were little bits, and
I mean,
I think he's a fine character. Whatever.
Alien design wise, he's a little bit like a butthead. I mean,
he's a bit
that nose. I'm not sure I really like the design, but no, he acted well. I thought he was really. I mean, the only casting decision that I thought was a miss.
Well, I'm glad he's going to be in the rest of the series anyway. Cause, and the guy looks weird. Have you seen pictures of him? Doug Jones?
Not yet.
Look him up. Yeah.
The only casting decisions that I wasn't on board with, like the only time I was looking at a cast member thinking, "Oh, this guy sucks." He got sucked into space, so it doesn't really matter. I was like, is this the helmsman, really?
No.
And then he's like...
No, Scotty. You saw that guy walk into that room and you knew he was going to get sucked into space.
I didn't have a foggy clue. I thought something else was going to happen to him because he was, like, wounded. Yeah, I thought she was going to trick him into letting her out, or I don't know, anything could happen.
I think it's because I saw the previews where she's in, like, a blown-up brig. So I knew that it was going to get... blown up.
Okay, I didn't see that.
But
See,
also, it's obvious.
When I watch shows that I like more, that I'm already into and on board with, like Better Call Saul or George of Thrones.
George of Thrones.
Game of Thrones. My brain is actively trying to figure out what's going to happen next, and what's even better is I'm usually right, or close to it in a way that I find fascinating. But with this today, watching Discovery, I actually wasn't in that frame of mind at all. I was just viewing it, so my brain wasn't thinking, "Oh, this must be the scene where this guy gets sucked into space, or they're going to get out." I wasn't really actively trying to predict where it was going to go. I was just trying to watch it. Really, I don't know.
Sure.
Because that makes me a simpleton. I think I'm just having like an off day mentally. And you're right, Doug Jones does look very weird.
Yes, thank you.
He's better with the butt on his face.
Did you see the Daft Punk robot on the bridge of the Shenzhou?
A couple of times. Did he survive the first 2 episodes?
No, I don't think he did. I think
Yep.
there was a scene where he got like was he the person with the wires coming out of his fingers as well? Because there were a few shots of somebody typing with wires coming out of his fingers.
It's funny because
I don't know if it's the same person.
I watched the show, right?
Yeah.
And I watched Discovery and had a vision of him in my head, as I remembered him, sort of Daft Punk looking. But actually, his character does look a little different when you.
You're gonna make me fuck up the video and click on this and see what you're sending me. Thank you very much. Yeah. Oh, I see.
There he is. He actually does look different he does.
Yeah.
It was worth the setup. I'm so glad I just took a minute of your time.
Thanks.
Anyway, hey, are we reviewing the other cast members now? Because
yeah, keep going.
That little redhead on the console, not much of a
she had
character
weird
there.
boggly eyes. Did you notice her boggly eyes?
Yeah. There was like a cast image I was looking at. Is she the one with the shaved head and the sides of her head and this cybernetic implant?
Is she in the? No, huh? That was a black guy. What are you talking about?
No,
there's a black guy with the Carthonasi headset.
No, you're
with the things on the side of his head, like Lobot.
You're thinking of Lobot. No, there was a preview image of like the next episodes or something. And, yeah, she was like she had red hair, but she had like some shaved sides of her head and stuff.
Oh, maybe she got injured or something. See, that's the thing. I just assumed that everyone on that ship was going to die except for Saru and Michael.
Saru.
Because I know Saru's in the rest of it.
Pronouncing his name wrong.
Saru. Sorry.
See,
Lieutenant Saru.
Because it's basically a 2-parter and a very continuous, whatever it is, a flowing piece of work. It's hard to sort of tell which episode I'm reviewing at any one time. So I'm sorry if we're jumping back.
Well, no, we're basically just reviewing it's like a 2-parter. It's basically
we're reviewing it as one really because that's all you can.
Because it ended on a cliffhanger, and then immediately the next episode started. It's just a single episode.
It's not really a cliffhanger. The cliffhanger would have been, Michael Burnham, we sentence you to fade to black. Find out next week if she's guilty.
Oh, you know what I hated?
The fact that it was smoky in the Starfleet chambers,
and there were no lights, and you can't see the judges' faces. It's like, what the fuck is going on? What is this? This is the Federation.
What is she suddenly in Sterling Cooper?
It's a bit dramatic. Smoke? It's a little bit dramatic. You can't even see the judge's face.
It made zero sense. I mean, I understand they're all going for a visual feel.
We can't hear the defendant. Or what did they say? The defendant is unheard.
I'm not sure if they're going to work on this in future episodes, but at least for the premiere, any sense of world building seemed a little weak for me. Like even a movie like the last Star Trek movie, was that Beyond, right?
Beyond, yes.
That had a little bit of, showing you the space station in space and showing all the happy people roaming around. So you got sort of a sense of the kind of world that they're living in, like their idea of a good
Federation,
world. Yeah. You got to look at a Federation. And in this, I don't know. The ships were kind of samey and boring. And
oh yeah, I really didn't like the ships. One thing, I made a note.
Hang on. When I was a kid, starships were like beautiful bone white things, and they were huge, and it was the 80s, and it was
eggshell white. Yeah,
very
distinct shapes. Like these all had the distinct shapes, but they're all just flat saucers and flat engines on the same plane as the saucer. Like there's no 3D kind of shape.
Yeah,
that's what I noticed. Anyway, all the engines are just like kind of flat with the saucer, and it's kind of boring.
Again, it's difficult to tell what counts as nitpicking. I don't know.
It's not nitpicking because the designs of Star Trek ships should be interesting. I've got a whole bunch of them back there that are like, little models and stuff, because they're good ships. They're interesting ships. Yeah, I've got a few.
I've got the Enterprise model.
The rest are in storage.
When you build it, it's like this big. It's like, and I am never going to build it because I just don't have the time.
Yeah, so really. you look at yeah, you look at the Enterprise D. You can't see it, but you know it's got plenty of interesting shapes. It's more interesting than those flat ships, anyway. That was me putting. I know. I mean, I don't want to kick their ship design too hard because it doesn't really bother me that much. Well, I didn't find it to be as bad as what they did in the JJ. Almost said something else then. JJ Abrams movies. Yeah.
That was a real step in the wrong direction.
Oh, you don't like the JJ Abrams?
Didn't we make a whole video once
yes,
about how much we hated that design?
Oh, look, I was 19 at the time, and I was finding anything to complain about. No, I don't know. It's
honestly, the ship designs don't bother me that much. Color-wise, I wish they were more like they used to be. I just love that white look. I don't know. Sorry.
It's again, it's my yellow.
Childhood. I'm just trying to relive my childhood here. It doesn't really matter. What was I complaining about?
I didn't like that the Klingon ships were. They were boring as well. I don't know. They were just kind of like squares.
Yeah, not a lot of personality in Klingon stuff. To me, the Klingon ship's too fiddly. Like, if we're talking about design now, the Klingon suits, it's all way too busy. What I said to you was, these are their ceremonial outfits, right? Because there's no way that they can move, or bend over, or do anything important when they're dressed in these.
I was like that. The guy in the spacesuit. It's like I couldn't even tell it was a spacesuit. It was just a big mess of detail.
It was a robot at first until it bled.
Oh shit! Can I separate this? Is this meant to separate? Sorry, I'm holding an Enterprise D, and like the saucer kind of comes off. I'm not sure if you're actually meant to.
Well, for emergencies, yeah.
I know it's built into the design of the ship, but I don't know if this model is supposed to come apart. This is what I was talking about.
Oh, okay.
Well, it's coming apart anyway.
Yeah, no, the Klingon visuals, even just the alien design, to be honest, it's too much like what they did to poor Idris Elba in Star Trek Beyond.
I did look at it a bit like his alien design, yeah.
Alien design now seems to be a case of he looks like an alien, and then we're gonna like feed him peanuts, and he's allergic, and they're all having an anaphylactic shock. They're all just like blowing up. I
wouldn't mind so much, but again, it just kind of gets in the way of like it makes all the scenes a lot slower. And
every Klingon scene could have been 1 to 2 minutes shorter, and I would have been happy.
And they were just boring. Like, I don't know. The Klingons are generally boring in, like, if you get to a Klingon-centric episode in, like, Deep Space Nine or something, a lot of them are boring. You know, TNG, a lot of them are boring. But
again, Klingons have changed so much over the course of Star Trek. So, I mean, it's not like there's any one concept that I think they should be sticking to, but the one they've landed on is a little bland to me. I don't know.
The one they've landed on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one that they've settled. The one that they've said, okay, Klingons are these honorable warrior types. Actually, honor is just a word to these guys, because they haven't actually done anything that you can really assess morally to be honorable or cowardly. They're kind of just there. They just like fighting.
Oh, there's a...
I've got
a few... Yeah, sorry, go on.
Why does an honorable species use a cloaking device?
Yeah, I mean, they never really explain that. It's just a...
It makes a lot of sense, doesn't it?
They're honorable up to the point where they shoot at you and kill you without...
Anyway, sorry, I don't mean to...
No, I just had a few, like, plot points that kind of stuck me as weird or, like, not explained very well. I'm just going to run them by you. So that probe... No, that probe...
Yeah.
It turned all its headlights on, and what was that? It was signaling to its friends?
Oh yeah, Sarek is like several light years away, and he sees a bright star in the sky. I thought, oh good, the speed of light's changed.
Well, I mean, the news could spread to him because that's faster than light. You know, that's fine.
Subspace. Yeah.
But I just don't get the concept of the thing in the first place. Like, why is it so bright, and why is that signal people? Like, I don't... It
made sense to me when it turned on, because I thought what they were going for was the good old-fashioned TOS sort of stun alarm. Like, a lot of aliens in old Star Trek would have, like, a loud noise or a bright light, and Kirk would be like, ah! And the crew would be like, ah! And they'd all be deafened, and it would be, you know... I thought that's what they were going for. But as far as it being a beacon, That's news to me.
To call the 24 houses? No.
Yeah, I just thought the 24-hour houses... Wow. It's because it's called the 24-hour shop.
Close. Another thing.
Yeah.
When they're charging the admiral's ship, like, he says, "Okay, now I'll show you my envoy, whatever," and then the big cloak ship charges into the admiral's ship. I thought that was cool. I thought it was a cool visual. What was that ship? And did it blow up at the same time, or where did it go? What happened?
Was that the ship they killed at the end with the blowing up the?
No, I don't think it was. I think it was a separate ship. That's the thing. You don't really get a good look at it. It's just
they're not
thing
different
that
enough.
uncloaks.
They're not that distinct, to be honest.
I definitely think it's a different ship, but it just crashes into that ship. It blows up, and then there's nothing there. Like, you don't see the debris of the Federation ship or the Klingon ship, and then it cuts to adverts, and it's like, I don't know what happened.
I just want to briefly go back to casting, because I said the only cast member I didn't like, that it was a clear miss, it sucked out into space. The only casting decision I really liked and thought worked just on an intrinsic level was this asshole Admiral asshole.
He was a good asshole.
I was watching him, and he had credibility on the screen. He seemed just a good actor. He was what he was trying to be, and then I think he got blown up.
He looks a lot like I was about to say Robert Duncan McNeil, but not him. Who's the guy from Breakfast Club? Michael.
Judd Nelson?
No, Michael Hall.
Michael Hall Jr. Clark.
What's the guy's name? Who plays the
Anthony
kid?
Hall.
Anthony Hall. Thank you. He looks like Anthony Hall. It's not him. It's not him.
And so I'm assuming this admiral is no longer in the show.
No, his ship blew up.
See, I don't like that.
His
the
ship
pilot
is exploded.
For some reason, I don't know what it was in his delivery. It was the only actor. I mean, the other actors were doing a good job. But he was the only one that came off the screen at me as a.
He was very straight Federation, military.
I think for me, with character work with actors, it just seems to be less is more sometimes. He didn't have that many lines to do, but it seemed more natural to me. What a shame.
It's like when you're watching TNG, and the guy from RoboCop comes in and just owns the ship. It's just
it's like
he
that.
just gets you. Is it get it done?
And he just
get it done.
Stole the show, like Commodore Decker from the old show. He's only in one episode. He just sits there chewing on the computer discs. And,
chewing on the discs.
What a performance! He never chews on it, but I think he has it near his mouth. He's like this.
Well, they're very resilient. It's the future. I could put a USB. I could put a USB in my mouth and it wouldn't.
This is why I can't wait. I can't wait till we start covering TOS. But the Commodores really were like the most useless turds. I don't know what egregious sin you had to commit against the Federation to be stuck as a Commodore. they all sucked unilaterally. They weren't good at their jobs.
It's funny. One of those things that people complain about the later series, if they don't like Deep Space Nine and Voyager and TNG and stuff, is that it kind of subverts the utopian future. There's corrupt admirals and there's these bad captains that are everywhere, and it's like, it looks like the Federation is as good as and Gene Roddenberry was spinning in his grave to see the corrupt Federation like this, and it's like they were always shit. the Federation wasn't good.
Again, what Star Trek is written by a bunch of different people, and so one episode you've got no money existing in the Federation, the next you've got money does kind of exist sometimes, not all of it. So,
and honestly, adhering to everything that Gene Roddenberry says is a bit like believing everything the Bible says. It's like, just time has passed.
War
is good, and Deep Space Nine was good. That's all I'm going to say.
To be quite honest, with Star Trek, and really with anything that has a canon, like a continuity, I just ignore the other stuff when I'm watching. Not even between series, but just individual episodes and movies. I just watch them as a thing, as an individual, because they never connect up to each other very well. With Star Wars, I hate to talk about Star Wars, but each Star Wars movie wasn't really the same and didn't really flow into each other. They looked different. People acted different. Because they make them 3 years apart. It's just people change and stuff is made by different groups of crews and cast and stuff like that. I don't know.
Did George Lucas didn't direct all three of the original films, did he? He
No.
just created them and then somebody else directed them, right?
He made the first one, but he had kind of like a director of photography who was kind of in charge of the visual look. But again, then it was all low budget, so they sort of had to just work with what they had.
Yeah.
The middle movie was directed by somebody else. The third movie was mostly directed by this other guy, but George Lucas took over because this guy didn't know how to really direct effects-driven motion picture. Sorry, Star Wars talk.
But did he direct all the three of the prequels then? Because I can't imagine anyone else... Yeah. I can't imagine anyone else being allowed to.
But then, again, the first prequel was not really the same as the second two. I think they did more location stuff in The Phantom Menace. And
Oh, definitely.
There's a shot of Obi-Wan falling off a catwalk. They actually threw a guy off like a 50-meter platform or something like that. Yeah. I don't think they did anything like that for the second two. It was all just poser stunt doubles.
They never used actual people.
It was all just. It was all just.
I don't even think Ewan McGregor was in that film. I think they just took pictures of him and.
Can we have a section of the Star Trek podcast dedicated to the Star Wars prequels? This is the only answer, I think. It's just,
No. We'll just talk about them when they come up.
All right, yeah. Anyway, enough prequel chat. So, what's next on your notes, David?
Oh, I haven't been following my notes. Hang on.
Oh, okay, sorry. Well, get us back on track. We're talking about Discovery, guys. This is the Star Trek Federation Conversation.
Federation Conversation.
Didn't I pitch that name to you over the computer or something? And I got an uproarious kind of response too. I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, I was like, Jesus, fuck. No, we're not doing
I was expecting David to be like, yeah.
I thought the doctor on the Shenzhou was Bashir for a second. He just looked like Bashir, like a really young.
Is there a scene with the doctor?
Yeah. She's in the sick bay, and he goes, "No, you can't go. You can't go yet. I'm still treating you." I don't think he has that accent. I think I made that up.
Now that you mention it, I can remember that scene happening, but I don't really remember the doctor.
He was like slightly he looked like Bashir.
Oh, well, I hope he gets sucked into space too, because then it doesn't matter that I don't remember him.
Well, he's not going to get offended by it.
Yeah. It's not a question of offense. It's just it means it's one less face I have to remember for future stuff.
Good point. I don't know. There's not that much else to talk about, really. It's
I find the important races of Star Trek, which is the Klingons and the Vulcans, not the Romulans because they're not in this yet. To me, they've been given short shrift. The Vulcans, I mean, again, Sarek still seems too emotional or sentimental.
He does, yes. Just because he says, "Oh, I wouldn't do that. That's too sentimental." It doesn't,
It has more impact in old Star Trek because it was part of a character arc. In the old days, he was this hard-ass father and didn't talk to his son for 18 years. And then by the time you get to the voyage home, he's kind of softened up a little bit.
And then you get to TNG, and
well, he's senile. But I kind of don't like that TNG episode because it's sort of this Rick Berman thing of pissing. Star Trek is a forest, and Rick Berman had to go around every tree and pee on it.
Well, you just don't like that Picard got involved in Sarek's life?
No. I was fine with Picard being involved with Sarek. I wasn't fine with him being like, "Oh, well, me and Sarek had a spiritual community. It was like any other contact he ever had." That kind of shit. I can't remember any of the lines, but some of the dialogue...
no, that sounded like what it was.
It hinted towards, "Oh, well, we had a special bond. It was like nothing. Anybody." And in Unification, Spock would be like, "Oh, you remind me of another captain I once had, except you're far more professional." I mean, again, that line wasn't in there, but like the Berman influence kind of... I never used to like that.
Okay, fair enough.
Sorry, we can wait for the TNG episodes before I start complaining about these things. But what was
Rick Berman.
Just the Sarek, not much of it. I don't know. The Vulcans in these new shows, Enterprise isn't new anymore. I understand, but they're a little too emotional. And the Klingons, I don't know what they're trying to do with them, but I don't like it. But I'll give it another chance, obviously, because...
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, they killed the main Klingon guy. So I guess it's going to be about the albino Klingon guy?
Yeah, he's the
main bad guy now? And that's fine, because he's more... He's more distinct than everyone else, obviously, so it's easier to figure out who the hell's who.
It's just going to take me a couple episodes to figure out what it is they're trying to do with these Klingons, because they seem a little underwhelming. It's not like they're all fat-headed They sort of look like the Vogons from that new Hitchhiker's movie, and that's not new either.
Yeah.
Kind of fat butthead kind of guys and with weird suits, and they just don't seem very. I don't even know how Captain Shenzhou got. Oh my god, that's not her name. Captain Georgiou. I don't know how she got nailed by that one.
What was she fighting him with? Was it like a log or something?
It was just a piece of the ship. She's pulled like a railing off.
She's tough.
Yeah. She's kind of a babe, really.
Who? Captain Shin? I was about to call Captain Shinzo again.
Even if she is in her 50s, I mean, let's Google images of her.
She looks great on all the red carpet, but I mean, I don't want to review her physical.
Oh, this isn't going to be like a thing where we sort of say who's the sexiest actress.
Yeah, no, I'm just distancing myself from what's happening right now.
Wow. Yeah, but see, here's the thing: is to me, my first memory of Michelle Yeoh was that she was a Bond girl. When I was like 12. So, I mean, yeah. Anyway.
Fair enough. Oh, look, you're sending me a picture again.
Let's get Discovery out of the Discovery podcast out of the gutter here.
Shit. Is that her?
I actually don't know. I didn't.
Why is her head so big?
Or maybe she's been pasted on there.
I don't know.
Anyway. But I do like when the Klingons was rattling off the names of other races. He was like the Tellarites and the filthy Andorians. It's like yes. He's for some reason. I mean, the Tellarites are actual pigs, but he's reserved filthy for the vaguely blue-skinned guys with antennas. And I'm like, what the Andorians do to get up your nose, man?
I think they were terrorists. I don't know. Yeah.
Again, well, this show is its own thing, right? There's no continuity going on here.
Apparently not.
I mean, well, nobody looks like. I mean, here's my bold idea, because they had to be clever and set it 10 years before TOS, right?
Yeah.
And this would have been risky. This would have been a little bold, a little out there as a strategy, and maybe the suits in the studios wouldn't have gone for it. But here's what I would have done. I would have actually set the show visually in the 50s. Because you know what 50s sci-fi used to look like?
Mm-hmm.
I would have deliberately...
Well, like Captain Proton?
You want 10 years before TOS. Let's give people 10 years before TOS. Let's have giant robots in funny suits and even worse sets than TOS. That's what I would have.
Scotty, do you mean like Captain Proton?
No, worse than that.
Worse than that. When was that?
Look, actual 1950s sci-fi.
Isn't that 1950s? Isn't that when that's set?
The sky's the limit. Well, yeah, maybe not. I don't know. I'm not being serious, but
I know, but I'm just trying to figure out when the Captain Proton stuff is meant to be
people just have to get over it. There's no continuity. There's no possible way you can jam this in between Enterprise and Star Trek and have them even remotely link up. It doesn't even look like Enterprise, really. And I don't care. I just want to watch it as its own show.
Yeah. And
I think anybody trying to join them up and perform those mental gymnastics is robbing themselves of the opportunity just to watch a show.
Yeah, I don't really care too much about the visuals anymore, but it's just, I don't want them to write themselves into a hole where they have to figure out... Because they're writing Harry Mudd into it, and now they have to figure out, oh shit, we have to get rid of Harry Mudd, but then we have to make him appear again in 10 years.
This is what I would have had the USS Shenzhou look like. Including the captain. Yeah. This is great.
This is image protected.
Oh, really? What do you mean?
Nah, I'm joking.
Okay. Right.
Yeah, he looks pretty cool.
He looks amazing. I was watching the previews for the next episode.
Like acrylic on the saucer. Yeah, go on.
Have we decided is it Cyrillic or acrylic? Because I said Cyrillic in front of Paul the other day and he laughed at me.
I think it's acrylic, isn't it? Hang on.
Well, acrylic. It's a kind of paint.
Cyrillic.
Have you put up that episode of
Cyrillic.
GeoGuessr yet? That's gonna be great.
No, I haven't even edited it yet.
Oh, okay. Well, edit it and then bring it over here and I'll
upload
it.
Break.
Sorry. Anyway, I'll stop writing you balls.
Yeah. So anyway, I mean, look. In terms
Harry
of
Mudd.
in terms of the series in general, I understand that this was just a prologue. They're just setting up the redemption arc, and the next episode's going to be more Star Trek-y because we're going to have the whole crew. They're not going to be dead.
Yeah. she's going to be working for a man, which is how it should have been.
No.
No. I don't. Yeah.
And
See,
I know you're joking.
Here's the worst thing.
What?
Well, that's the thing. I almost have to say I'm joking now, because again, we had that complete stranger watching our Rogue One review, thinking that we legit want Diego Luna in the ground just because he can't speak 100% clear English.
He's Hispanic. Get him out of my Star Wars.
I don't know. I mean, there's no way to avoid it. There's no way to avoid misunderstandings on the internet, really. But, you know.
No, there isn't.
Well, look, honestly, before Discovery was properly announced, I kind of thought it just would have been... This is what we used to talk about. Just cool to have, like, Mad Men in space, you know. Have, like, a Don Draper type, be the captain, you know.
Yeah. Well, maybe, that new captain, he looks... I mean, he's kind of just straight-lace, you know...
Yeah.
Businessman? I don't know.
No.
I don't know anything
about
him.
The point is that Mad Men... The reason I like Mad Men is well, it's about Don Draper, but it also follows Peggy's point of view. Like, the first episode of the show is her first day of work, and you see her come up from the bottom, and you see things from her perspective.
The first few episodes are more about Peggy than Don, almost. Well, it's basically just like the do it. It's about both of them. But then, they branch out and they look at Pete Campbell.
And so when I say Mad Men in space, I don't mean like how we used to joke about just the captain firing people all day and smoking. I mean like that perspective, because this whole show is supposed to be from Shaniqua. Is it Shaniqua or Soniqua? Because you were saying Soniqua before. I don't know if it was wrong.
I think it's Soniqua. That's how it's spelled.
Oh, it's Shaniqua.
No, it's Soniqua.
Yeah, but it's pronounced Shaniqua because it's like the black girl name.
Her name's Michael. Just say Michael.
Look, if I sound ignorant, just ignore me. What I was going to say was, because the show is from her point of view.
Yes.
All I was saying was when I say Mad Men in space, I just, I like that idea of it being from the...
Yeah,
sorry, there's a baby crying in the next room and I just lost my train of thought.
It's weird though, when they were starting Voyager, they wanted to use Nick Lucano as the character. Which
I remember.
We'll definitely get into later on, in about 3 years when we get to that episode.
Yeah.
But then they thought that it was not like he couldn't be redeemed from what happened in that episode, the first duty. Like they wanted the character to be able to, have a redemption arc. Yeah. Then they thought that was too much, like him covering up his friend dying and like blaming his friend.
Yeah.
But like, Michael Burnham really fucked up. Like, I don't know, like...
she really dropped the ball.
I saw a few comments saying, like, man, if only the captain listened to her, if they fired first, everything would have been fine. It's like, no, it wouldn't have been.
She knocked out her own captain.
Yeah, she went and knocked out the captain, and then, like, immediately after having an argument on the bridge, she went into the ready room, knocked out the captain, and then came back out and changed the plan. And it was like, what the fuck are you doing? Why do you think that's going to work?
Yeah, that's
never worked in the history of Star Trek. That's never worked.
And her nipping off to her quarters with some sort of weird code language. Oh, it's personal. It's important. And she's like, Captain Shenzu is like, oh yeah, all right, off you go.
And then she just goes and talks to her dad.
Captain Georgiou. Sarek, who's able to sit down on the furniture in her room.
Yeah, I thought it was like actually important, but it wasn't. It was just. She just wanted advice from Sarek.
I'm not trying to unduly kick a new venture and not give it a chance to grow, but I did find that sequence of events to be a little hokey. That's just me.
Yeah. Anyway, I was wrapping up. I'm going to give it a chance, obviously. Yeah, and maybe she'll be more likable in the future because she made a lot of dumb decisions in these episodes. And...
They weren't brilliant. I mean, in future episodes of this podcast, I do want to have segments where we cover great stuff, like fan stuff, like fan films and fan productions and things like that. I didn't have anything ready for tonight. And another thing I want to start doing is not reviewing, but just watching and talking about non-Trek things that Trek people have been in, like old movies that Captain Kirk was in, stuff like that. Because there's a lot of great shit out there.
Like Dune.
Oh yeah, Patrick Stewart's in that, isn't he?
Patrick Stewart, yeah. I've never seen. I do actually have a quote that I've got a game for you, Scotty.
Oh, David's going to play a soundbite from the...
No, it's a Star Trek quiz. It's called Guess This Quote, and you're going to have to guess which character says this quote, okay?
Before we play Guess This Quote, are you going to play the soundbite from the...
No, because that would make it too obvious. I'm just going to read it to you.
No. I mean, are you going to play the funny sound that you recorded from the episode today?
Oh yeah. Sorry.
Wav.
Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah.
Okay. And then we can play Guess the Quote.
Thank you. Okay, yeah, there was one bit in this episode that was really funny, and as it happened, I had to pause and stop watching and immediately capture it because it was hilarious, and I don't know how it got into the episode.
Yeah.
But when the albino Klingon grabs Sonequa's head, she makes this noise, and I don't understand how that got into the episode. I don't understand how that stayed in the episode. How did that beat? I don't. What is that? Like,
it's the sound that guy made when they tried to pull him off the plane earlier in the year.
I mean, not even Oberyn Martell made that noise when his head was getting crushed. I don't understand. Yeah, sorry, that just really jumped out as something hilarious.
All right, let's
stop for about 5 minutes and just laugh at that. Guess the quote. Yeah, so it's. So Star Trek, guess this quote. You have to guess which character says this quote, and it's a character that it's an actor that you like. Okay, hopefully that makes it more obvious.
Yeah.
The quote is, "I tried reasoning with you, but you just keep forcing me to take extreme measures."
What, do I get a hint? What series is this from?
The actor was in TNG. And it's it's an actor from a sitcom that you like a lot.
Oh hell, I can't even begin to guess. From a sitcom that I like a lot.
Yes.
Did Ted Danson ever appear on TNG?
No.
Damn it. Do I have to guess? Because I'm drawing a blank here. What was the line again? Can you repeat the question?
I tried reasoning with you, but you keep forcing me to take extreme measures.
And this was in TNG.
Yeah, it was an actor in TNG.
See, I should know this because I've at least watched a lot of TNG. I'm not Googling it, but no. I've got nothing.
You don't know? It was the prospector from Toy Story 2.
What? Frasier?
Sorry. I just had to do that too.
Wait, hang on. He never said that in a Frasier.
I know, it's a quote from Toy Story 2.
Oh, it's a quote. Frasier episode. I thought you meant he quoted it in TNG. This was something in TNG.
No, I'm just.
Okay, okay. Guess the quote sucks. I don't understand it. I was trying to mentally think. When did Frasier say that in that episode he was in?
I know.
It's such a shame I can't read out.
I just wanted to mess with you.
It's such a shame I can't read out more of what I said to you on Skype. I'll just politely read the stuff that I can. Listening to them try and speak through their big Klingon teeth. And this is the part where I'm joking about how funny it would be if their big comeback plan against the Federation would be to start a basketball team.
That is funny.
We must form a team to take the championship.
I mean, I feel like it would be a lot more grounded if they were doing something like that.
I mean, yeah. And also, someone I really did miss during the Star Trek, because she's the one that really branched all of the shows together, was Majel Barrett.
Yeah, the new computer voice, not that really distinct or anything.
What I said was, it's not the same without Majel Barrett. Why didn't they text-to-speech her ass before the leukemia killed her?
Oh.
Which is a little abrasive way of wording it, but what I really wish, because didn't that movie critic get his voice turned into a thing so he could keep doing movie reviews? Because he had like some throat cancer or something.
Oh, Eckel and Ebbett?
Jekyll and Hyde, yeah, those guys that used to review the movies.
I know who it is, but I'm just... there's actually a website where, for people who have lost their voice, or if they're deaf or something, you can actually record your voice saying a whole bunch of different things, and then if they want that voice as their text-to-speech kind of thing, they can use that. Well, not text-to-speech, but like phrase kind of... Yeah, you pick phrases and stuff. Yeah, you can go there and record your voice, and then people can choose it out of like a library of voices.
I used to have a great iPad app, and unfortunately it doesn't work anymore, where it was Obama. And you could just type stuff in and have Obama say it out. And I'm just thinking, damn it, why didn't Paramount get Majel Barrett into a studio and because they had to know that in the future that she wasn't going to be around forever. And,
well, at the same time, they don't need
She
her
needs
to
a
be the
voice.
computer voice the entire time.
Well, they kind of do. You want to know why? Because now when fan films want that Trek connection, but they need a voice with a computer, you know who they get to do it? Marina Sirtis. There's a fan film and I'm watching it, and all of a sudden I hear this voice on the computer. I'm like, oh, who's that? Oh, God!
I was watching a playthrough of the expansion pack for XCOM 2, and it had Michael Dorn and Marina Sirtis talking to each other as two different characters. I thought that was weird.
What?
And Michael Dorn, sorry, it had Michael Dorn as one character,
Yeah.
and Marina Sirtis as the other character, and
But
they
they
were talking to
weren't
each other.
Worf and Troy.
No, they're just two characters in XCOM,
Wow.
and it was like a story cutscene, and they were talking to each other.
I'm not really comfortable with all these actors that used to be in stuff showing up in games. Like, I mean, it's not Wing Commander, but it's by the Wing Commander guy. Star Citizen has like Gary Oldman. I think Mark Hamill's going to be in it. That Pest, who's always doing the motion track stuff, what's Andy Serkis? He should be in a circus. I mean, get rid of him. He should be gone.
Yeah.
I hate him. I cannot stand the guy. Gillian Anderson, I think, is in it. I mean, I'd love to play a bit of Star Citizen if she's going to be in there.
Yeah,
But-
she's doing all the motion captain stuff, isn't she? I saw a video of her talking about it.
So, but absurd. I almost don't want all of these famous people in these games.
It kind of takes you out of it, because they've all got very distinct voices, and
It kind of does. I actually don't know if Mark. Hang on, I want to find out. Mark
Hamill's definitely in it.
Star Citizen. Well,
Not,
see,
not
that's
that
the
I've
thing.
paid that much attention to it.
It's too much like. No, he's in it. Just type it in Google and get the Google images. But the thing is, he was such an important part of Wing Commander. It's almost like he shouldn't be in this, unless he's going to be that guy, and it's the same universe.
Jesus.
I mean,
But they're not actually having his face. Oh yeah, no, they are. Right.
did they make him younger there?
I don't think so.
I can't tell.
And that's Gary Oldman. I think they did Gary Oldman like 3 years ago compared to. Doesn't look much like Gary Oldman anymore.
Anyway, it's a Star Trek Discovery. I mean, would you call it an inauspicious start? I think it's fine. It was better than I thought it was going to be, and I like it more than I like the Orville, which is insane to me because I'm at odds with the flow of society. Because everything I've seen for the past month, even before either show had come out, even before anybody really could have known what they were talking about, they were all saying, and they're all sticking. Here's the thing: I think they're all sticking to their guns. They're just backing the horse they backed originally, without paying any attention to the shows they're watching. All the same people that were saying, oh, well, the Orville looks like it's going to be more like Star Trek. Star Trek Discovery is going to be SJW nonsense. And then it's like they're not even watching it. They're not even modulating their opinions at all.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, Star Trek is trying something new, and the Orville is trying something old.
Yeah, but then again,
That's what I'll say about that.
Can we just review the Orville now? I just don't see it. Whatever it is people are getting out of it, whether it's the humor falls flat because I don't like Seth MacFarlane's jokes. I don't like his gang of goons he's lined up to act alongside him. I mean, in particular, the two that are driving the ship. You've got I keep calling him washed up comedian guy because you know who I'm talking about.
Yes, I know who you're talking about, and I think
looks a bit
everyone
like
else does.
Louis C.K. Did he used to be a comedian?
I thought he looked more like what's his face?
He's a piece of crap.
Who's the other comedian that we know? Bill Burr.
He doesn't look like Bill Burr.
No, but
if
he's
Bill
like a
Burr was on the show, it might stand a chance.
Yeah, no, I'm saying he's like a C-grade Bill Burr.
Oh, no, he's like a C-grade Louis C.K. Which is pretty bad. No, and I just don't like him. I don't like the kind of well, and calling the second in command a bitch when she's out of earshot. I don't know. It just doesn't have the ring of truth to me. And I don't like the sassy other guy on the other side of the.
Yeah.
Thing. We're doing this now. This is a thing. I hate that shit. I hate.
Look
that.
again, Scotty. Look again. I'm gonna say that the second and the third episodes aren't as bad as the first episode. The first episode was abhorrent and terrible, and the next two were just basically like Star Trek rip-off episodes with a lot less humor in them.
Everything I've heard about them would lead me to suggest that I won't like them. I will watch them when I get the time, but I don't think I'm going to have like some sort of
That's all
understanding.
I ask. Just open your mind.
Here's the thing. I mean, it's.
Open.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know which is the second or the third episode, or kind of both of them, is McFarlane's weird ham-fisted, inadequate take on the whole gender identity thing. Which one's it happening?
It's the third one. I'd see. Again, after watching it, I don't think it was that. It wasn't terribly inadequate. Like, he could have fucked it up a lot more than he did. And it was just kind of like. At first, I wondered why they were even bothering with it, because it just seems like a recipe for disaster. And in the end, they just kind of made a few arguments that didn't really. They weren't that strong, and then the episode ended. Like, they didn't do anything terrible with it, is what I'm saying.
Just for me, the problem with the Orville is it just seems so terrestrially bound. Like, this guy's set his comedy in his vision. He set it in the future.
No, there's a lot of current references.
Like, he's still making jokes about the toilet. Like, oh, yeah, I guess guys just pee with the seat up. And, oh, yeah, my ex-wife's a bitch. And it's just like...
Well, I think it's very hard to make a... Isn't it hard to make a comedy where you can't reference anything that people like know? Like, I'm not trying to defend it.
Well, no, but the space comedies have existed before where it's still achieved. Like Red Dwarf. I mean, I don't know
that references a lot of, like, normal stuff, though.
I don't know exactly. It does, but it does it better.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a way of doing it. It's just very basic. For this guy who's supposed to be the king of comedy right now.
Scotty.
That's how he sees himself. No, that's how he sees himself. I'm not saying...
No. The king of comedy is Kevin James. Let's just relax.
What we're going to be doing... I don't know if we can do this with Discovery, because Discovery, as far as I know, hasn't got the preview trailers the same way old Star Trek does. But when we get to TNG especially, we're going to be playing you guys the preview clips. Where the
every time we start an episode.
This week on Star Trek, Captain Picard faces off against an invincible foe. He's got this great voice, the guy that used to do the early ones.
Joe Piscopo is the king of comedy. Yeah. Do they have them for TOS as well? Can you find me trailers for TOS?
I think the DVDs have them. I'll have a look. I know TOS, I think, had trailers.
Yeah, because I need all of them. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem.
Anyway,
look, yeah. I guess, I mean, it's going to be a bit of a free-flowing podcast. I mean...
the other one... I mean, the next few episodes are going to be a lot shorter. I'm just going to say that very quickly. Because this is introducing the entire series and stuff. But yeah, it's...
Yeah. We're going episode by episode from now on for a while, right?
Yes.
Discovery's going to be one time. And there's going to be a break in Discovery at some point?
Yeah, 7th episode, and then there's like a 2-month break or a 1-month break or something.
And then when Discovery finishes, I guess we can start doing this for old Star Trek.
And we'll start at the beginning.
We're going to be going a few episodes at a time, like 4 maybe?
3 to 4 episodes at a time. I've got it all mapped out. I honestly spent some time mapping it out, and
just disc by disc is the best way to do it, because that's what I've got and that's what I'm going to watch.
It's not strictly disc by disc, but
whatever. I don't really care.
You'll have to deal with that. Yeah. Anyway, so thanks for watching. Anyone sorry.
Are we going to give them like a number rating? We're not doing that.
Yes. Yep, Scotty. No, sorry. Your protests are falling on deaf ears, so we're doing it.
Oh. Are we doing separate numbers for each episode? Oh God, I've really got myself into my head now.
Well, you can just give it the same number. I mean,
have you got a column for Scotty and a column for David? Or...
It's basically a 2-part episode, so you can just do one rating for it.
I don't know.
You don't know? Well, that's fine. Let's forget it.
I rate everything somewhere between 6 and 7.
This is between 6 and 7.
You reckon it's worse than that?
I'd say 5 or something. I don't know. It's just kind of boring. Like all the Klingons are boring, so the whole thing is boring.
Maybe it's too early to rate it. Is the thing? Like I haven't got it in context of the rest of the show yet, and the Klingons pretty boring. I don't know. I wouldn't say any higher than 6. Maybe.
Look, if there was a show that had a villain called Cottonmouth, which there was, it was called Luke Cage. There was a villain called Cottonmouth in Luke Cage. There should have been a villain called Cottonmouth in this show because they all had cotton in their mouths.
It's the Idris Elba syndrome. They feel as though the aliens all have to have that thick.
Yeah.
I mean, it made sense. It made less sense in Star Trek Beyond, because Idris Elba was an ex-human.
Yeah, he was like a mutant or something. What was he?
For some reason, he went from talking like good old English guy.
I'm Idris Elba.
Idris! It's over!
That's not how he spoke.
It more or less was. We'll cover that in the Star Trek Beyond episode of the podcast.
In about 5 years. Anyway, thank you guys for...
Yeah, thanks for hanging out with us.
Thanks for watching the podcast, anyway.
We haven't podcasted in a while, so bear with us. We're going to keep working on this.
We'll smooth this out, and there'll be a lot more flash and glamour in terms of the production, but right now we're just trying to get this out right after the episodes came out, basically. So, thank you. Scotty, any parting words?
No, we'll see you at the next one. And again, it's kind of like Wheel of Fortune. This is just where we landed today. We had some time. This episode's just come out. We have to do it now because, I can't do it tomorrow. So.
Well, I can't do it tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there you go.
Anyway, thanks, guys. Stay tuned for the next episode of the Federation Conversation. We're going to change the name. We're going to change the name. So.
It's a good name. No.